Hi, my name is Cindy Lewans, and I am a member of the Sisters of the Presentation of Mary. I thought I would address certain questions that I am often asked. First, how did I know that I was called to religious life? And what are some of the challenges and joys in living as a religious sister? So first, how did I know that I was called to religious life? God revealed this gradually to me. I grew up the second oldest of 8 children in a tight-knit family, and our parents brought us up in the Catholic faith. Believing in and talking with God was just a part of life. But I also loved to perform and longed for an extraordinary life on stage. When I left home and went to university, I thought that this was where my great, exciting life would come together. But I was lost. Everyone else seemed to know what they wanted, where their niche was, but I didn't. Constant changing of majors and career choices left me frustrated. Aside from this, I devoted more time to a dating relationship and even considered marriage. But I did not feel at peace with this. I couldn't envision myself as married and decided to end it instead. One Sunday, I was leaving church and saw some leaflets hanging on the bulletin board, emblazoned with a question in bold print. Are you interested in religious life? Without really knowing why, I ripped one off and sent it away to an enclosed address and received boxes of pamphlets from different religious communities across North America in response. As I read the lifestyles and missionary work of these religious women, I became excited and fired up. Surprised, I wondered, could this be the life that I've been searching for? I moved into Discernment House in Saskatoon, a place where one could receive spiritual direction, discern, and live in a community of faith with sisters and other young women. I felt like I had come home. I enjoyed living as a part of community. In fact, I realized that I had been thirsting for it, to belong to and be part of something bigger than myself. I also felt at peace with the idea of a religious life, and this particular community, the Sisters of the Presentation of Mary. The Word of God also confirmed for me that this is the way, walk in it. Decisions had always been difficult for me, but God gave me great peace to move ahead. Have I ever doubted God's call and committing to religious life? Definitely. There have been plenty of times when I have felt like running away and that the grass is greener on the other side, i.e., in single or married life. Something that has always helped me is to recall a moment at home when I was growing up, when things were particularly hectic. My mom sank into one of the dining room chairs and said, to no one in particular, I should have been a nun. And if someone as on fire for her vocation could say that, I know it is only natural to want to throw in the towel, and that there will always be the temptation to throw everything away. What are some of the joys and challenges of living as a religious sister? My greatest joy and peace comes from prayer, being a companion to Christ. Our foundress, Marie Riviere, encouraged us to completely rely on prayer and trust in the providence of God. Her faith was bold. Sickness, persecution, the French Revolution, poverty, none of these could force her to abandon God and the call to mission, to love. In her words, I can say also, when I pray, I am at peace and have no fear. And even though I don't know how to pray as I ought, I remember that the Spirit is interceding on my behalf. Only with prayer can a religious live out the vow of obedience, listening to God's call in everyday life, and like St. Paul say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Of course, it is sometimes a struggle, but the more I pray and share with Christ, the more graces abound, and I can be truly present to life as it is, to God in all things. God calls us to intercede for others and our world. Marie Riviere would say to us, "We are daughters of Mary, called to live like her before God in a state of worship, self-offering, walking in love in his presence." Our foundress reminded her sisters of this call with St. Paul's words, "I beg you through the mercy of God to offer yourselves as a living sacrifice, all for God, all through holy love." This is the motto that expresses the offering of our lives. And this, I'm sure, was behind my search for a great life. Aren't we all fired up with an insatiable longing for more? And no wonder. We come from the divine, as St. Augustine said. Our hearts are restless until they rest in you, O God. Another joy, a challenge, relates to our vow of poverty, which calls us to live in total communion with Christ, in imitation of Christ, who for our sake was made poor and emptied himself unto the cross. Our foundress would say, "It is only natural for the one who loves to want to resemble the beloved, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me." So coming to know Christ, to study him, to imitate his ways, especially in embracing crosses and giving love and mercy in the face of hostility or hardship, this is a challenge for me, for all consecrated religious women. Simplicity of life marks our lifestyle. Everything is held in common, and we live dependent on one another for the necessities of life. Because I live in community, I am challenged continually to remember, it is not about me, it's about us. Our interdependence reminds me that no one of us can make it alone. This is both a challenge, for the times that I am inclined to think of myself, but also a joy and a relief. Yes, I don't have to struggle to prove that I am self-sufficient. Our foundress also insisted that we look upon the savings of the congregation as belonging to the poor. Aside from financial charity, religious women are called to detach from possessions and power and to strive for social justice, that new life that all creation is groaning for, and to respect and care for all creation. The vow of chastity challenges me, all consecrated religious, to live with an undivided heart, wholly given to God and not other distractions or idols. I am called to be companion to Christ rather than to a husband and family. And this in turn opens me to a more universal love, or at least makes me more available. Chastity is embraced for the sake of the kingdom of heaven and is a sign of the world to come. I belong to no one, and yet everyone. This became clearer to me recently as I was assisting students in an elementary school. A young boy asked me, "Do you have any children?" And it came to me to say, "Not my own, but you are my children." And there was great joy in opening up to a more universal love, to serving the poor and little ones. The Pieta holds special meaning for our religious community because our foundress was formed at the feet of the Pieta. Mary was a Christ bearer, bringing Christ to the world, something we are all called to do. In her cradling her dead son, she also urges our community and the faithful to cradle our suffering world, to be in solidarity with the poor and the suffering, whether that is in prayer, ministry, the human struggles, or the daily sharing of suffering with those we encounter. My deepest joy has been companioning others through hard times to discover God and meaning in the midst of suffering. When I was younger, I thought life was only to be found in the glories and successes, but in crosses? I recently read that it is God who consecrates, not the person who consecrates herself to God. Only by the grace and mercy of God, this past July 2013 was the celebration of my profession of perpetual vows. Remember that adage, "It takes a village to raise a child"? Well, the same could be said of me as a religious, thanks to family, friends, mentors and teachers and community, both religious and abroad. Much like a newly married couple, I have not arrived. Every day life teaches me, and God is inviting me to a continual conversion of heart, a growing and maturing in the vows, in relationship with God, others, and all of creation. There is joy and freedom in leaving everything behind to possess one treasure only, the Lord, the Christ.